This is a gasteria. That's not a Haworthia. I just thought I'd point that out. There are a few factors I consider when I think it's time to water my Haworthia. The first factor I consider is how long has it been since their last watering. Now in my house, depending on the time of year, they could need watered every week or every 2 to 3 weeks. So that's the first thing that I consider. Next, I feel the actual weight of the pots. I know when my pots are adequately watered, I know the weight of them and how they feel. And I also know when they're dry. So that gives me another idea of the watering situation at hand. The third thing I consider, which is the most important to me and my plants in my situation, is how do they look? What's the appearance of their leaves in the windows? Are the leaves shriveled up? Do they have that nice shine to them that Haworthia windows typically have? You know, what's going on in those regards? So if they're well watered, they'll have a nice shine to them, the leaves will be plump. Depending on the variety, but those are typical standards you can go by. So that's the third most important thing that I look at. I feel that the majority of this tray, everyone's looking kind of dull. Leaves aren't as fat. This one gets a little fatter than that. These leaves are typically shinier. This plant doesn't have very much of a shine. It typically doesn't, but it is shinier than that, and the leaves are more full than that. These two have a nice shine to them, but you have to factor in the weight of the pot and how long it's been since they were watered, and they probably need watered. So the overall appearance is that of dull. They could be a little peppier. Now you might be asking yourself, why do I care about the entire tray as a whole? How long it's been since they were watered, how much they weigh, what their appearance is. Well, that's because I don't water each plant individually. I bottom water. I pour the water directly into the bottom of the tray, making this essentially a passive hydroponic tray. I only put about 1/4 gallon of water into the bottom of the tray, and then each plant will only take up the amount of water that it needs. As long as I don't leave them sitting in there too long and overwater it, everyone will get the amount of water that they need regardless of the size of their pot. Now ideally, I would have these in all the same size pots, and that would make this a better system, but it works for me in my situation and knowing my plants the way that I do. Now you might ask yourself another question. He bottom waters his succulents? He lets his succulents sit in standing water. Doesn't he know that they could get root rot? This is true. Succulents do not like wet feet, and you should never overwater your succulents because you will get root rot. However, like I said, I only put the amount of water in there that they need. They do not sit in the water, and it works very well for me, and I've been doing this for many years. So it does take practice. I don't recommend doing this immediately. If this interests you, I suggest taking one or a couple of plants, putting them in individual saucers, bottom watering those until you get the hang of it. The plants in this tray are grown in a soilless medium. Pretty much every pot in this tray is grown in akadama, so they are soilless. Akadama is a little more forgiving in that it's going to dry out a lot quicker, so if I do make a mistake, I don't have very long to wait. However, I bottom water regardless of the substrate, so whether it's soil or soilless, I still bottom water. Now every so often I will water from the top just to try to wash away the calcium that deposits at the top that evaporates off of the rock. But other than that, I typically always bottom water all of my plants. There are a few exceptions, but for the most part, I bottom water. So now I've considered all of those factors for the whole tray. I add all those factors together, come up with the average in my head, and I decide whether they need watered or not. And these are meeting all the criteria for the majority of the plants, so it's time to water. Now I'll show you guys how I do it. I just simply take my 1/4 gallon of water and just pour it directly into the tray. And that's it. I'll just let the plant sit in that water for about 2 hours. I'll periodically come back and check on them, see how it's going. So I just let the capillary action do its thing, and the plants will pull the water up and get what they need, and the watering's done for the day. Any standing water that's left behind after I've decided that they all have the amount of water that they need, I just simply suck it out with a turkey baster. Also, if I put the 1/4 gallon of water in the tray and it seems like they're drinking it up really quick and it's not going to be enough, I just simply add a little bit more water. If you enjoyed this video, feel free to hit that thumbs up button, subscribe if you'd like. Thanks for watching, and have a wonderful day.